Zapier and Make are two of the biggest names in workflow automation. If you're getting started or looking to expand your automation toolkit, you might not be sure which is the best choice for you. Both providers can automate similar processes, but they take fundamentally different approaches. Based on years of experience in workflow design and automation, I'd say the question isn't really which one is better, it's which one fits your specific needs, technical comfort level, and budget. Hi, I'm Tom from X-Ray, the workflow company. In this video, I'm going to break down the key differences between Zapier and Make across several categories, including all of the AI features they recently added. By the end, you'll know which platform makes sense for you in your situation, or whether you might want to use both, like we do at X-Ray. I'm going to pit Zapier and Make head-to-head across a few key categories: ease of use, pricing and value, app integrations, flow controls for complex workflows, and AI features. For the sake of this comparison, I'm going to be focusing on a no-coder's perspective. Both apps do support custom code, but if you're looking to make code a big part of your automations, you'll likely be better off with providers like N8N and Pipedream. You can find links to those providers, as well as tons of tutorials for learning about Zapier and Make in this video's resources board. That's linked in the description. To compare Zapier and Make, we'll start with ease of use, because this is where these platforms really start to diverge. Zapier is very simple and beginner-friendly. You'll build automations that are called zaps, one step at a time in a linear setup, and everything is described in plain English. It's designed so that anyone can jump in and start automating without a technical background. I know people who are working in marketing or HR or education who have never written a line of code in their lives, but they're able to pick up Zapier and build useful automations fast. Make isn't difficult per se, but it's considerably more technical than Zapier. The language and setup they use are often less clear, and there's definitely a steeper learning curve for non-technical users. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you want to automate a prompt in Google's Gemini AI. Both platforms support this, but the setup feels quite a bit different. In Zapier, it's very straightforward. The fields clearly describe everything you need: model, setup instructions, prompt, and so on. You just need to type or use dropdowns to enter data, and hit / to bring up dynamic data from previous steps. If you're unsure about what any setting does, there are usually helpful tooltips to guide you. In Make, it's fairly similar. It's still a no-code interface where you mostly fill out fields or dropdowns, and you've got a convenient menu for all your variables. But there are definitely fewer tooltips and directions here, and there are more steps required to set up a basic action. To send a prompt, for instance, you need to create a new item under Messages and choose your role as user. And none of this is explained. It's not that hard to figure out, but it definitely requires more technical intuition and a bit more willingness to just experiment. The flip side is that when you enable advanced settings in Make, you'll notice there are a ton more options than what Zapier offers. This is a theme we see throughout. Make gives you more control, but at the cost of simplicity. When it comes to ease of use, Zapier is the clear winner for beginners with a much faster learning curve. Make is still accessible, especially if you have some technical experience, but it's just not as handholdy. Next, let's compare pricing. When looking at base subscription tiers, it's clear that Make offers more affordable plans, but the devil is in the details here. Make's free tier is head and shoulders above Zapier's. You get 1,000 credits per month, 2 active scenarios, and most core features available. Zapier's free plan gives you just 100 tasks per month and only single-step automations, just one trigger and one action. It's essentially just a demo, not something you can rely on for company-wide automations. For paid plans, Make starts at $11 per month when paying monthly. Both providers, of course, offer discounts when you pay annually, but I'll look at the month-to-month prices. Your $11 monthly subscription with Make grants you unlimited active scenarios and 10,000 credits each month. A credit usually equals 1 automated action, and you can add more credits to your plan for an additional cost. Zapier starts at $30 per month for their Pro plan, which unlocks multi-step zaps and premium apps. You get 750 tasks per month, where a task essentially equals 1 automated action. Overall, Zapier is about 3 times more expensive than Make when you're looking at the base pricing, but there's a super important caveat that can potentially affect your actual costs. Both platforms limit and measure usage based on automated actions. In Zapier, they're called tasks, and in Make, they're called credits. If you need more tasks or credits than what's included in your base subscription, you'll have to pay more. Both pricing pages show you how much it will cost for the amount of runs you want. You'll notice you get way more credits in a basic Make plan than tasks in Zapier, but there's a catch. Now, I'm going to be getting into the weeds a bit, but bear with me, this is some important information if you're getting started with Zapier and Make. One of the most common ways to start an automation, particularly for beginner builders, is to use a polling trigger. These are triggers that check sources like Google Sheets, Notion databases, or Asana projects for new data at regular intervals. In Zapier, when a polling trigger finds no new data, no tasks are used. But in Make, a polling trigger uses a credit every time it checks, whether or not it finds new data. This means if you have a few automations checking for updates every 5 minutes, you could burn through your Make credits surprisingly fast, even if nothing is actually happening. A single automation with a 5-minute polling trigger will use about 2,000 credits every week, meaning 8,000 credits a month just to check if it should run. So that one automation could consume your 10,000 credit allotment if it runs just a few times in addition to the regular polling checks. On top of that, Make also limits how much data you can process with your automations each month, while Zapier doesn't set a limit or even measure data usage at all, which is a huge deal if you're moving large files between apps. Really, it's kind of like the difference between a premium and budget airline. The initial ticket is much cheaper with the budget option, but you have to pay for everything you use, and once you factor in the extras, the price difference isn't quite so big. There are workarounds and ways to reduce this credit usage, and they're a bit easier than wearing all your clothes at once to avoid checking the bag. You can trigger automations with webhooks when possible, or set your trigger to run at a longer interval, like every 15 minutes. You can also schedule the automation to only run during certain times, like only during regular working hours. Ultimately, even with these usage considerations, Make will still usually be cheaper than Zapier, but you need to be strategic about how you set up your automations if you want to avoid paying for lots of additional credits. Good workflow design becomes critical to managing your Make budget, or you could end up blowing through your monthly credit allotment in a week with just 2 or 3 automations running around the clock. This kind of fine-tuned workflow design is something that we specialize in at X-Ray. If you need help making sure your automations are running as efficiently as possible, or if you want to eliminate boring, repetitive work at your company, reach out to us at xray.tech. We'll show you your options for flexible hourly support or a long-term retainer for complete workflow transformation. We've helped our clients reduce time spent on tedious tasks by over 90%, resulting in thousands of hours back for more important work. Stop doing the work you hate. Visit our site today to start supporting your team with automation and AI. Now let's get back to the comparison and see how Make and Zapier both fare when it comes to app integrations. This is an extremely important aspect of no-code automation. The whole idea is to connect your apps together to share and transform data. So if an automation provider doesn't support the apps you want to automate with, you're kind of SOL unless you want to write your own API calls. In terms of raw integration numbers, Zapier easily wins. They have over 8,500 apps versus Make's count of just over 3,000. But the final tally alone doesn't quite tell the full story. Make's smaller library includes the vast majority of popular business apps people already use. Just as a few examples, they both support the Google and Microsoft suites: HubSpot, Slack, Airtable, Asana, Notion, Basecamp, Jira, QuickBooks, and many, many, many more. If you want to check to see the full list of tools that each automation provider supports, just go to xray.tools, search for the apps you already use, and you'll see whether or not they're on Zapier, Make, N8N, and other automation providers we didn't talk about today. More often than not, you'll find that Zapier and Make both support your frequently used software. One key caveat here is that neither app is HIPAA compliant, so if you're working with sensitive medical data, you'll likely need to look elsewhere. For instance, Caragon is a good HIPAA compliant alternative, although it has far fewer integrations than Zapier or Make. But beyond basic software availability, you'll also need to consider integration depth and quality. In most cases, Make has more options and gives you more control within each app. Remember that Gemini example? Make has more advanced settings available. This isn't always the case, but it's a pretty common pattern that holds true across many integrations. So for my final verdict on integrations, I'd say Zapier wins on total app coverage, but Make tends to have more in-depth support for apps that it does cover. You can call it a draw. If you're using the most common software, Make will give you more options. But if you're using industry-specific, niche software, Zapier is more likely to support your apps in the first place. When you first start creating your own automations, you're probably going to keep things pretty simple. Every automation will just be a couple of actions, a search or two, and maybe some filters or formatter steps. But to build really valuable automations, you need to be able to match the complexity of real-world workflows. Now, both Zapier and Make have lots of features to support more advanced setups. In both, you can add branching paths, loops, conditional logic, webhooks, code, and more. The difference largely comes down to visual layout and deeper integrations. Zapier is really designed with simple linear workflows in mind. Once you start adding some paths, it can be difficult to see and understand the whole workflow at a glance. But Make's more modular layout makes it much easier to understand how complex workflows function. You can see several branching paths all at once, and it's easy to move or copy steps while building. Make's more extensive options for each app comes into play here too. Having more granular control in each step makes it easier to build sophisticated logic. There are a lot of options for automated actions that you just won't find in Zapier. Another advantage is that Make includes easy inline functions. You can reformat dates, run math calculations, or transform text with custom drag and drop formulas right inside the module. In Zapier, you have to create a separate step for similar formatting and transformations. These formatter steps don't count against your Zapier task limit, but it still adds clutter to your overall workflow. Zapier can definitely handle complex workflows as well with its features for branching paths, conditional logic, and filters, but most experienced builders find Make easier to work with for advanced automations. Finally, let's wrap up this comparison with a look at the AI features offered by both providers. AI has become a major part of workflow automation, and both apps have evolved significantly here in the last couple of years, with Zapier even rebranding themselves as an AI orchestration platform. Both Zapier and Make now have options for using AI to build automations, as well as automating your AI prompts or even creating custom agents. First, both providers have AI co-pilots to help build automations, though in my experience, neither are very good at creating complete working automations with all the settings you asked for. You're always going to have to fix some of its mistakes and finish configuration on your own. Ultimately, these AI co-pilots are more useful for general support. They can explain features you're unfamiliar with and help you figure out more advanced settings. Next, when it comes to automating your AI prompts, the two providers offer very similar functionality. You can use either to automate prompts in popular AI tools like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google's Gemini, among others. The main difference here is that Make typically offers more advanced settings for power users, while Zapier typically is a bit easier to set up. This approach to AI automation requires you to set up an account for your AI platform's API and create an API key for the automation provider to use. Then when your prompts run and call the API, you're billed accordingly based on your usage. But both also have built-in AI tools, AI by Zapier and Make AI Toolkit, that let you send prompts without setting up your own API accounts. AI by Zapier allows free prompts with selected models and makes it easy to split AI outputs into separate variables, which is really useful. Each prompt uses one task, just like any other action in Zapier, so it's predictable. Make AI Toolkit also lets you send prompts without API charges, but uses up a variable amount of credits based on how many tokens your prompt consumes. Longer prompts, or prompts using more advanced models, may use up more than one credit per run, making it harder to predict costs with the Make AI Toolkit. That being said, the price of AI credits in Make is generally cheaper than the price of tasks in Zapier. All in all, if you want to automate your AI prompts, Zapier is definitely the easiest way to do it as a no-code builder, though Make will probably cost you a little less in most situations. But you can do more with AI than just automate your prompts. Using Zapier and Make, you can build customized AI agents that actually perform actions in your other software for you. Drafting emails in Gmail, adding new database items in Notion, finding data in HubSpot, and so on. Both platforms recently added support for an open standard called Model Context Protocol, MCP, letting you connect AI tools like Claude directly to your automation providers. Zapier's implementation is, no surprise, much simpler and easier to set up. All you have to do is create a new server with a few clicks and select the apps you want the MCP to access. Then you can just ask the connected AI app like Claude to do whatever you want in that software. When you're using Zapier MCP, each call uses 2 tasks from your plan, which can quickly get pretty costly. Make's implementation of MCP requires building individual scenarios for each action you want to automate, resulting in a much longer setup time. Like with other AI tools, Make MCP will use up credits based on the complexity of your prompts. If you're looking to build an AI agent, I think Zapier really wins on simplicity. I've got a video on the channel about using Zapier MCP with Claude, and it shows how easy it is to just pick a few tools and start using your own AI agent. Make will likely cost less, but take you a little bit longer to set up for similar functionality. Overall, that's really the theme with Make and Zapier for AI. Zapier is unquestionably easier, but Make can be a lot more budget friendly. So to sum it all up, I'd say you should choose Zapier if you're new to automation and want the easiest learning curve. It will give you the most accessible way to create simple, reliable workflows with straightforward AI features. And it's pretty much guaranteed to support any app you want to automate with, as long as you're not on custom software. On the flip side, Make is the better choice for builders on a budget, with pricing coming in at about a third of Zapier's. It's also better suited to creating more complex workflows and gives you more granular control over each automated action. The choice really comes down to your specific needs and technical comfort level. If you're just getting started with automation, I'd recommend trying both free tiers to get a feel for which approach resonates with you. You can check out the beginner's guide on our channel to learn the ropes for both apps. And remember, you don't have to pick just one. Many teams use both tools for different types of automations. You could even have an automation in one provider trigger an automation in the other. At X-Ray, many of our workflows involve passing data between both Zapier and Make. Sometimes it's just the best way to do it. If this video helped you out, like and subscribe to the channel for more automation and AI updates every single week. You can also find me and my company X-Ray by searching for X-Ray Automation on nearly every social media platform. For now, I've got to go, so until next time, find your focus and stay in flow.